Hello, everyone. Welcome to the St. Thomas 2022 Lower School Open House. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. So I am Chris Russ. I'm the Director of Communications here at St. Thomas. I'm also the parent of a first grader and a second grader here at St. Thomas. I also have a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old who will eventually be St. Thomas students. So personally, being a part of St. Thomas has transformed my family. I've seen my kids grow in faith and wonder and curiosity and joy. Sending my kids to St. Thomas was one of the best decisions I've ever made as a parent. So I invite you to learn more about the school today and prayerfully consider if St. Thomas is a good school for your family. So we'll begin the open house today by playing a brief welcome message from our pastor here at St. Thomas, Father Bill Ashbaugh. So let me get that video all set up for you here, folks. Can everyone hear me okay too before we get going? Fantastic. All right, great. That video from Father Bill going here.
I'd like to welcome all of you to St. Thomas the Apostle Classical Catholic School Open House. My name is Father Bill Ashbaugh. I'm really blessed to be the pastor here at St. Thomas the Apostle School and Parish. And it's one of my favorite ministries, the school. I just love seeing the kids grow and the joy that's in them. We celebrate Mass every day here, and the noon Mass in the particular ways, we have the children join us for that parish-wide noon Mass. And the kids, that's one of my favorite Masses because the kids' hands go right up when I begin the homily. They want to participate, ask questions, why? When I talk about something, what does that mean, Father? And there's always this sense of wonder in them, wanting to know, wanting to hear the good news in a sense, and to learn more about our faith. And that's primarily the mission of every Catholic school, that we're here to help the children come to know how much they're loved by God, that they're made beautiful in God's image and likeness, that we are here to help them follow Jesus as they grow up and to discover the wonder, the truth, the beauty that God has filled the whole world with. This is really the essence of a classical Catholic education. We recognize that all the subjects are connected by God himself, that all learning will lead us back to the ultimate truth of God, who God is. So we really do hope that you'll take a look at our school and consider it for your own child. Our legacy here goes all the way back to 1868. We've been here ever since. We certainly want you to enjoy this open house and take part in it. And we'd love to have your children come to St. Thomas the Apostle Classical Catholic School. May God bless you.
All right, so that was our pastor, Father William Ashbaugh. For those of you just joining us, welcome to our open house. Thank you for taking the time to attend the St. Thomas Lower School Open House this year. Playing videos over Zoom can sometimes be a little iffy if the video quality is not great. All of those videos will be available in higher quality after this meeting as well. So you'll be able to watch them then again if you have any questions, want to review them too. Like I said, my name is Chris Russ. I'm the Director of Communications here. I have a child who's in first grade and a child in second grade. And I am so happy that my children are here at St. Thomas. My daughter, when she entered first grade, getting her to read was kind of like pulling teeth. She kind of hated it. And we would always, hey, you should sit down. If you're bored, you should read a book. And she, no, never want to. And now every single day she asks if she can stay up later and later. She'll try to bring a stack of books into her bed. She loves reading now. It's one of her favorite things to do. So thank you, Ms. Kreifels, for that. It's a huge blessing. And then Michael in second grade, I mean, he loves school. He gets fired up every single day to go to class. He loves writing. He loves reading. He loves, I think, history right now is his favorite subject. So it's just a blessing to be able to drop my kids off at school every day. And it's an exciting thing. They run out of the car. Can't wait to get into school. So thank you, Ms. Cullen, for that as well. And then I can't wait for my kids to get into third and fourth grade as well here at St. Thomas. So we're going to be playing some videos here from each of the teachers. You'll get a look into their classrooms, a look into their teaching philosophies. But before we do that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Tim DeLaura, who's our headmaster here at St. Thomas. Tim, would you like to say a few words about St. Thomas?
Sure. Thank you, Chris. Welcome, parents. Pleased that you're here. Glad you have the opportunity just to learn more about who we are and what what the Lord is doing here at St. Thomas. First, I'd like to introduce, with great pleasure and pride indeed, our teachers that we have. Miss Celestine Kreifels, our first grade teacher, our second grade teacher, Miss Maura Cullen, our third grade teacher, Miss Amanda Fisher, and our fourth grade teacher, Mr. Michael Creaser. Teachers are the school. It's that simple. The Lord uses, calls, and brings a group of professional educators together to do his work day by day with the children. And so it's been a pleasure to come to know and serve the teachers that we have at St. Thomas as headmaster. In all of our teachers, I consider them classical Catholic educators. And that's a very specific calling in our day, as the Lord is, I believe, by the power of his Holy Spirit, moving and reforming Catholic education in particular, by bringing about a deeper understanding of what human education is, how the human child is really meant by their nature to be educated. And I get asked often, what is a classical Catholic education? What is classical education? And it is difficult to answer that question briefly. I've heard it likened to trying to explain what a cathedral is, because there are so many different facets that come and play off of each other that make classical education, because classical education is really a culture. It involves not only what we teach, it involves how we teach it, and it involves very deeply why we teach it. And so those three come together in a wonderful way and in a unique way when it comes to making a classical education classroom. In regard to the curriculum, we're looking in all of our subjects to allow a child to encounter not just facts, not just concrete knowledge, but to be able to see more deeply intimations of the Lord's presence and work in history, in math and science, which we call nature studies in our classical curriculum, and reading, as well as the specials in music. Choir is throughout the curriculum in K through 8th grade. In fact, beginning in 5th grade, choir takes place twice a week. And so there is this certain deeper understanding that what a child needs to learn is really are all revelations of the divine in all of its different forms. And the children, in whatever subject it is, our teachers are bringing about an encounter with something deeper, a deeper theme. And in fact, the deeper, what we call the transcendentals, the good, the true, and the beautiful. And the how of our instruction really is grounded in questioning. So we don't simply present an objective to a child and sort of assign them with the task of getting here. Education and teaching is a witness to the truth, a witness to a passion, to a love for something I personally encountered and discovered and that I want to share. And we do that primarily through questioning. We keep our classes small so that response to questioning can become a dialogue around different aspects within all the subjects. And that dialogue is a child is required to examine what they're thinking more carefully, to express it more carefully, to be able to understand what another child is thinking, to be able to evaluate that, compare it to their own. And so there's a rich activity of critical thought that is a part of how we teach in a classical curriculum that is led through questioning. And then the why we teach is ultimately, again, to bring a child, to equip a child to encounter the divine and to participate in the mysteries of our faith that lead ultimately to our divinization in God. The reason God became man was to make man into his own nature, to incorporate us into his nature. And that invitation begins as a child. And our motto is Nascantur in admiratione, let them be born in wonder, let them be infused with the Holy Spirit in whatever they're studying, and engender in them this natural curiosity, this hunger for more, a hunger that ultimately leads to our Lord. So being a part of classical Catholic education is a beautiful privilege, a deep work, a hard work, but certainly filled with a joy and a sense of purpose that we share with our children. And so it's, again, going back to this idea of a culture that we've cultivated and deepen and renew each day at St. Thomas. So we're pleased to introduce it to you today. And I'm, again, very pleased and proud to have our teachers do that in each of their classrooms.
Thank you, Tim. And then as a way to get to know our teachers and their teaching philosophy a little bit better, we're going to play a series of videos here. For those of you just joining us, welcome. After those videos, we're going to have a Q&A period. So let me jump right into those videos. The first one will be a look into our first grade curriculum that was presented by Miss Celestine Kreifel. So let me get that video all queued up for you, and then we'll get going.
Hello everyone, and welcome to first grade. My name is Celestine Kreifels, and this is my second year with St. Thomas. However, I have been in education for 8 years, and 4 of those in the classical model. Although I have taught all ages across a variety of subjects, there is something particularly special about first grade. This is one of the impressionable time in their lives when some things will stick forever, and it is an honor to be part of forming these children during this time of their lives. Now, first and foremost, even in first grade, we always focus first on God, as the creator of all things. As I teach the students a very simple definition. Who is God? God is the creator of heaven and earth and of all things. With that in mind, we focus on God as our end and the end of all the subjects that we're studying. After that, we focus on the foundational skills that they're going to need for the rest of their lives, particularly in reading and mathematics. So in our reading curriculum, we have 2 different programs that we use. The junior grade books. Use some of the stories from here. One is City Mouse and Country Mouse. You have your story, and then there's these wonderful activity pages for the students to complete that really help them to process and grasp the story. And then we have our Memoria Press, which is such stories as Blaze in the Forest Fire, which was this last week. This is our study guide that goes with it. It helps them build their vocabulary and also has questions about the story, and as well as grammatical concepts. So no matter which program we're using, I will read the story to the students the first day on Monday. They'll ask me their questions. I'll record them for shared inquiry discussion on Wednesday. Then they'll help me read it again on Tuesday. We'll discuss on Wednesday. They'll independently read with a partner on Thursday. And then we'll have some kind of activity on Friday to go along with the story. And most of those days, if we're doing Memoria Press, we'll also have a study guide page. Once we've read and enjoyed a story, we'll move on to phonics. We use Abeka Phonics. This is an example of one of our phonics special sounds charts that we'll review every now and then. And this is one that we would use when we are learning this particular sound. E in brownie. So back, the students would read these words for me using their knowledge of previous sounds and this new sound. Taking our knowledge of phonics and moving forward and building on it, we have writing. Writing is where we have our primary memorization. This is our poem from a couple weeks ago called The Snowbird. The students will take this home, memorize it. We will also work on it in class and often have actions that go with it so to make it easier to memorize. And then after we've done some grammar concepts and looked at our sound city and maybe made some word lists, built our vocabulary a little, we'll have a source text. That week it was a story called The Snow Maiden. Then the students will take the key information from the story and create this keyword outline. They summarize, in this case, they summarize the story into 3 paragraphs, with 3 keywords for each sentence that they're going to write. Then they help me compose, they do it mostly on their own, paragraphs that retell the story. This is a student sample, beautiful handwriting. Most of them really love this too. It's so enjoyable for them to really engage with the story and then use their imagination to bring it to life again. After writing, we move on to religion. We have 2 curriculums for this that we use together. The Spirit of Truth by Sophia Institute Press is more on about the dogmatic teachings of the church and getting those really strong foundations in the church teachings to the children. And it does it through lots of activities and prayers, these beautiful pages that they work on. And then along with that, we have our Theology of the Body curriculum from Luau Press. Here we have one of the stories that the lessons are based on. A story called The Animal Hedge teaches the children about man's relationship to creation, man's place in the world that God has created. Once we're done with religion today, we'll move on to math. And last year we used Saxon. This year we've moved to Dimensions, which is part of the Singapore system. Now, what I love about this is that it starts very tactilely with pictures and objects to make math very real before gradually moving on into the abstract. Now, science is just all hands-on. Students will have a question, I'll pose a question for the day, something they're supposed to figure out or explore. And then they'll have some kind of activity that they're doing. Today was light and shadows. So they had a flashlight and a bunch of objects. And they were trying to learn about how shadows are made and how to make shadows smaller, those sorts of things. And then on the weeks that we don't have science, we have history. And we are learning about Christendom or the Middle Ages. And although this book is clearly for older children, there's some great story sections that this first graders fully engage with. They love it, really grasps their attention. And what I love to do is have slideshows with lots of pictures of the art and the architecture, the places, and illustrations of what people would have looked like to really get that imaginative side of things going, to give history a more concrete nature in their minds. So that's basically the course of subjects that we'll go through in a day in first grade. And now I'd like to end with a tour of our classroom.
Here's a quick view of the first grade classroom, our whiteboard, and my desk. You can see a picture of the Sacred Heart. The yellow poster is our timeline for history. We have our prayer table, a lovely rosary, and a beautiful picture of the Pietà. We have our easel with our prayer and pledge on wheels. You can easily move it around. Our little activity table here. The students keep their books here. And then our library. We have a beautiful frog and toad here as well by the phone. And the student desks.
All right. Thank you very much for that video, Ms. Greifels. So yeah, and we're going to move right along into the next video. I know our time is fairly limited here. So here is a look into our second grade curriculum and classroom. Get that video all queued up for you.
Hi
All right.
everyone, my name is Maura Cullen and this is my 3rd year teaching here at St. Thomas in 2nd grade. This is my favorite grade because this is the chance for students to start making that transition from learning how to read to reading to learn. Each morning we start off with our basic phonics skills still, and we use the Abeka Phonics program, which is based off of special sounds. So these are 1, 2, 3, or maybe 4 letters that form one sound, and we use those to apply them to make words, sentences, now paragraphs, and stories. So students have been finally making that transition using these sounds that are all over the board to be forming their own paragraphs and stories. Later inside the day, we go on to reading, and we have 3 different curriculums for reading. Our first one is Memoria Press Series, where we focus on intonation and expression and fluency in our reading. The beginning of the year, we start off with some short stories with Animal Folktales of America. Then we just finished Prairie School, which is historical fiction. Then later on, we're going to be moving on to The Courage of Sarah Noble, and then ending the year with Little House in the Big Woods. Later, we rotate into our junior great book series. And with this program, we have 3 different themes in 2nd grade. One's on bravery, one's on friendship, and the last one's on responsibility. Each of these has different short stories involved, and we go through a 4 sessions. So the first session, we are reading it as a class, as a read aloud. The second session, we read it again as a class, but we act it out. And then the next session, we put a focus question on the board based off of that book or that story. And students are required to look inside their book to find evidence of their answer and provide details from that text to try to answer it. We have a very special event called a Socratic Seminar the next time. And so we all sit in a circle. We get to call each other by our last names and try to answer that question. Students are welcome to share their ideas, to contradict others, to question other people's ideas, to build off of other people's ideas. And it's all about trying to have that really constructive conversation and critical thinking. The ability for students to have these types of conversations at this age is incredible, and I cannot wait to see them even grow more through our next Socratic seminars. And then we also use the Theology of the Body series. And so those are 2 read-alouds that you do in 2nd grade. One is St. George and the Dragon, which we do around his feast day, and then the other one is called The Quilt Maker's Gift. I love this curriculum because it's all about how to share love of yourself and how you are a gift, how other people are a gift, how you can be a gift to others, and just really promoting how to love your neighbors as yourself and just promoting that human dignity in everybody. So the next thing that we do is writing, and our writing is based off of different poems. And so here's our poem from this week, and we mark it up. So this week we had The Vulture, and we start off each week with looking at the poem, and we label our verbs, nouns, adverbs, adjectives, prepositional phrases, and we label them by color. And so this is just a great way to start off the week with trying to recognize those parts of speech and then seeing the different word usage that can be used in their writing later on. At the end of the week, students get to stand up in front of the class and present their poem. We make up motions to go with it, and students can help act out with them if they need some help with it. But the really cool part about this whole aspect is that students are excited to come up and try to share their poem with other people. So usually students might be a little bit afraid to come up and speak in front of an audience, but to see students excited to be able to go up and speak in front of people and show what they prepared for has been a really cool experience to watch this confidence. The other cool part about our writing curriculum is that it really pairs well with our phonics, and it hones in on those sounds. So we have Sound City, we have A, E, I, O, and U Street, and it's all the different ways to say that same sound, just like in our phonics program. We have digraph delivery trucks, and then we have, this year we made some suffix trees for different suffixes and root words. We made a prefix movie theater for previews. We have a hospital for words that say ow. We have a jail for words that don't follow rules. And then up here we have all these airplanes for all the different ways to spell air. Our science curriculum, we use FOSS Science, and in 2nd grade, we do Earth, Life, and Physical Science. So we finished our Earth Science unit. We were doing all about rocks and geology. We are starting our Physical Science unit, and so that's all about solids, liquids, and gases. And then in the spring, we're going to do more plants and insects when it comes into the springtime for our life science. Most of this curriculum is very hands-on. Students are doing mostly hands-on projects, working together in groups. We have a textbook to reinforce ideas with the topics that we've done, but most of this is very experiment-based, and we all have our own notebooks to put our data in, and then we can share it with others as well. We combine the data from each of our own individual groups and make it into a class chart. In our math curriculum, we have a workbook and a textbook for We Use Dimensions Math. This is a new program this year, and we have really found great success with it because this is also a very hands-on opportunity. So we use workbooks and textbooks to reinforce those skills, but we also use a lot of hands-on activities because behind me, I actually have a track of different measurements. We did in second grade, our goal is to add and subtract fluently within 20, being able to have our time to the minute, being able to measure in US standard and metric units, and doing weight and other aspects about multiplication and just how that's the groups of concept. So we actually made a track and we flew paper airplanes and tried to measure how far that they went in metric units and in US standard units. And for history, each grade does a different thing, but second grade is a really fun one because we do the Renaissance. So it's all of the fun painters, inventors, scientists of that time and how they've really affected today's day and age as well. And then, very importantly, we have our religion curriculum. And that is one of my favorite things to teach because second grade is a sacrament year. And we use the Spirit of Truth curriculum, which is up here. And with the Spirit of Truth curriculum, it's very sacrament based, as I said. And in St. Thomas, we do First Communion in May, and then in the past we've done First Reconciliation in February, but this year we're doing it in May as well. So then we get more time to prepare. And we get to be able to do different parts of the liturgical year, and we work a lot about the different parables of the kingdom and what Jesus is trying to teach us through those. I've really enjoyed this curriculum as well because, like I said, most of the stuff has been really hands-on. Students are really experiencing things and not just sitting and writing inside their books. But this is our second grade class, and I hope you enjoyed it. And so I hope you had fun. See you later, everyone.
All right. So that was a look into our second grade class. For anyone who might have joined us since the last time we kind of did an introduction, thank you so much for joining us here. This is the 2022 St. Thomas Lower School Open House. We have 2 more videos that are kind of tours and looks into our lower school classrooms. One video for 3rd grade and then for 4th grade. Right after that, we're going to open it up for some Q&A. And then, so yeah, let's take a look at our 3rd grade classroom here. Get that video all lined up for you as well. All right.
Hello everyone, my name is Amanda Fisher. I'm the 3rd grade teacher at St. Thomas Apostle Catholic School. And my hope is that when the students walk into my classroom, that I will have put something better in front of them than what the culture offers, and that they will be totally captivated by truth, beauty, and goodness, which are the 3 transcendentals, and God as the source of them. In terms of my teaching philosophy, I believe every single student is capable of achieving greatness and being the absolute best student that they can possibly be. And so it's my job, and I always tell my students, it's my job to show you what you're doing well, not to dwell on what you're doing poorly. And so I really try to infuse my classroom with positivity. And I also was a teacher in the South Bronx before coming here, and that's the poorest congressional district of America. And so I'm also a firm believer, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what your socioeconomic background is, every single person is capable of achieving greatness. And I've also been trained in Love and Logic, which is a teaching and also a parenting philosophy which really honors the dignity of the child. So that's really at the core of my teaching philosophy. All right, in terms of curriculum, we learn a lot in 3rd grade. And we have a really great lineup of literature, children's literature. They're all classics. So we start with reading A Bear Called Paddington, and the students love this one. And then we read Charlotte's Web, another classic, they love it. And then we read Mr. Popper's Penguins. And last we read Farmer Boy. Then we also have the Junior Grade Books program, which is really focused on growing in virtue. So we focus on relationships, kindness, and confidence in these great junior grade books. And there's a big emphasis on shared inquiry where the students will have student-led discussions, which is really beautiful to see and 8 9-year-olds. In math, we use dimensions. Basically, in 3rd grade in math, we cover all the grounds between addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. The goal by the end of 3rd grade is to completely memorize all addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division facts, to be completely proficient in them. And in science, we use a wonderful curriculum called FOSS Science, and it's totally hands-on. We learn about magnets and how opposites attract, and we learn about water and all of its different states and water out in nature. So we get to go outside a lot for that. And we also get to experiment with crawfish later in the year. And also there's a unit on engineering and history. It is all about the United States history, and basically cover everything from really the founding of the New World, and the goal is to end about into the 1900s. So World War II is about where we will end. So cover a lot of ground in history in 3rd grade. In religion, we cover a lot. Marry the sacraments, really make sure that they are formed well in going into the sacrament of confession. There's a lot. I really try to immerse the students into scripture and have them memorize the books of the New Testament and the Old Testament, and have them memorize all kinds of scripture passages. Lots to learn in religion. We also pair it with theology of the body. We use Rua Woods Press books for theology of the body, and also pair it with an African folktale called Mufato's Beautiful Daughters, which has a lot of integrated theology of the body elements in it, like how we are called to see everyone else as a gift and to see yourself as a gift and to make a sincere gift of yourself. We use this Bible a lot, the Catholic Youth Bible. And also virtue, growing in virtue is really like the most important thing in my class, to be imitators of Christ and to grow into virtue. So we use Disciples of Christ, Education and Virtue a lot in my classroom. So that is pretty much it.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Acts and letter to the Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians and Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, Titus and Philemon, Hebrews and the book of James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st and 2nd, 3rd John, Jude and Revelation.
All right, that was awesome. That was a great way to end the video. We have one more video for you before we jump into our Q&A period here. So up next is a video from Mr. Michael Creaser and a look into the 4th grade curriculum and classroom. Get that all set up here for you.
Hello, my name is Mr. Creaser, and I'm the 4th grade teacher here at St. Thomas the Apostle Catholic School in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Why am I teaching in a Catholic school? One reason, Jesus. Yep. That's why I have the Divine Mercy image right behind me. He's the reason for the school. He's the reason for why I'm teaching these kids, and I want them to come to know His great love for them and for the whole world. Please take a look at the rest of this video about how we explained the curriculum to you, and I hope you take a look at St. Thomas the Apostle Catholic School to send your kids here. Thanks.
Okay, this is how we start our day off, facing the crucifix and the flag, saying our prayers and pledge allegiance, and also our school prayer here at St. Thomas. Our first subject we talk about is religion, Spirit of Truth. This is by Sophia Institute Press. 4th grade, they're learning about the commandments and the Beatitudes, and that's how Jesus teaches us how to live and make the right choices so we can stay in His grace and His love. This is what the children see at the front of the class. And over here we get into our next subject, which is well-ordered language, or grammar. Students are learning how to analyze a sentence and see how all the different parts of speech work together to form good thoughts, and composing them into a good composition. Our reading curriculum here, Homeward Christ by Memorial Press. That's one of them. We also have junior great books and other novels such as the Blue Fairy book. This is the classroom. This is what I see every morning, except that the students are not here yet. We have more shelves and more books, a recess bag where they hang up their coats, and of course a lot of books back here and their cubbies. Our next subject is the story of the church. Church history, learning how the church has impacted society and how Jesus has worked down through the ages, and how many saints and other holy men and women have shaped our church, our life, and our community. Next part is our math, Dimensions math, otherwise known as Singapore math. We're in 4th grade. We're finishing up book 4A. We'll be moving to 4B. This really lays out not only the basics, but delves deeper into the math for 4th graders, and uses many different models, tools to visualize the math before you get into it. Some of those are the bar models, which the kids have really taken their time to learn. Could be a really difficult subject. Our next one is FOSS Science, FOSS Resources, and it's divided into 3 modules of energy, environments, soils, rocks, and landforms for 4th grade. Recently, we just finished an investigation where the kids are doing energy stations. So they have a fan crank generator and a tone generator where they observe how energy is transferred and how the evidence of energy is all around us. And last, our spelling curriculum from Rebecca keeps them really busy and on their toes studying every week for a spelling test. And here in the back, we have our sacred space, our little altar, where the kids can sometimes come and sit down and pray and take time out to focus on Jesus and his great love for us. And this is the 4th grade class here at St. Thomas the Apostle Catholic School in Ann Arbor. God bless.
All right. Thank you so much again for joining us for our open house today. So I'd like to jump right into our Q&A session here. So for the questions, feel free to type them over in the chat or just go ahead and shout them out. Either way would be perfectly fine. So looks like we have one question here in the chat. Let's see here. Okay. So do you have any special ed resources available for those students struggling with math? Oh, it looks like there's a handful of questions here as well. So let's start with the math question first. So what is your approach for students who are struggling with math?
I can speak to that in a general way. So we do not have special education resource persons on our staff, which is typical for Catholic schools. Some are able to in a larger setting. We do have a relationship with Ann Arbor Public Schools that allow us to have students tested, although they are way behind right now given their situation last year with COVID. So that's made it difficult. But we do have a formal relationship with them, and they're able to provide some services, but they're limited, which is due to the fact that we're not a public school fully in their system. So we do provide in-classroom supports. We seek to differentiate the assignments that a child may need. We do have some students in reading in particular that are receiving support from a volunteer tutor. And that's a long-term process where they're receiving that support week to week, focusing on just their general reading development. So in regard to math, what we would look at are the particular skills that are needed, and as needed, be able to provide tutoring for student likely outside of the regular classroom, depending upon what that amount of differentiation needed is. If it's very significant, then we would provide that support outside of the regular classroom time.
Thanks, Tim. And then a couple other quick questions that were in there as well. What is our average class size, and do we offer entrance testing?
Again, I could speak to that. So we do not have an entrance test as such. We do look to receive the records of achievement from a previous school to ensure that the grade level that a child is being enrolled in is indeed aligned with their current level of achievement. We don't want to begin with a child working at a significant deficit, which involves stresses and difficulties for the student. So we do check to ensure that the grade that a child is applying for aligns with their current level achievement and where they've been working at in the past. What was the second part of that question, Chris?
Yeah, do you offer entrance testing? And then there was kind of a follow-up question as well of determining, I have a daughter with a summer birthday, turning 9 this summer. Would she begin 3rd grade or 4th grade? So kind of about entrance testing and then where to place a specific child in the school.
So again, in that case, we'd want to make an informed decision based upon what grade she was in last year. Many schools have standardized testing that gives us one additional data point in terms of how a student is doing reading and math. And so with the parents, we'd have a conversation around what would be best for the child, for that individual child, and where they have been and what their current level of achievement is based on the data that they have. Previous report cards, previous standardized testing data, possibly previous teacher comments.
Great. And before we kept going with any of the chat questions, any out loud questions anyone wanted to shout out? Anything anyone was wondering about? And feel free to direct these to a specific person or just ask them generally as well. All right. We'll just keep going with the chat question then. So it looks like next question was about wait lists. Are there currently any wait lists for for the lower school grades?
Well, Laura can speak to this as well. Currently, we do not. We just provided our current families with their registration materials that are due by Tuesday, March 1st. We do give them priority seating. If they're, we would begin formally accepting and registering new families beginning March 2nd in order to give families that are currently enrolled to ensure that our currently enrolled families have a seat. We only have filled this year our kindergarten. We have a limited size in our classrooms to 18 students, again, in order to ensure that the classical education environment can be fostered, which requires just a smaller setting than most Catholic schools or any schools really. So at this time, I don't anticipate us filling our classrooms before April. Just looking historically, we'll beginning, if you are interested in enrolling, Laura will have more information on that at the end of our time. And we will be accepting those registration materials anytime, beginning from this point forward. We will wait until March 2nd to enroll new families. The longer you wait, frankly, our enrollment has grown significantly these past 4 years from 60 to 70 to 84 to 100 students. We are looking at approximately 100 students in the fall. Um, whether we're going to have any full classrooms, it's hard to say at this point.
Mhm. And also the 100 students that we currently have enrolled is in addition to 30 students who are in the preschool as well. So there's that program as well if any of you have preschoolers. Laura, is there anything you wanted to add to any of that about the wait lists and about enrollment periods?
Well, I do encourage you to turn in your applications because when we do receive them, we will put you on the list. So first to turn it in to whatever number it may be, and then we will contact you. And if you'd like to find out more about classical education, Tim DeLaura will be sending out an email with more information. And then you can contact us by calling us or emailing back. And we will set you up with an appointment to meet personally with Mr. DeLaura. He'll talk to you more about classical education and what that means for your child or children, take you on a tour, and you will get to personally meet the teachers and watch them in their classrooms. It's a wonderful experience. We have a huge gym, a wonderful art studio with pottery wheels and all different kind of paints that the children don't create crafts. They learn to be artists. Our Spanish teacher is wonderful and so exciting and a native speaker. The children just take on this language so quickly, and starting in 5th grade, Latin is taught. So there's so much to see in our school, and we look forward to meeting you and hearing from you. All the contact information is on our webpage. You can call us at 734-769-0911. And thank you again for joining us.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, and I'm sure we won't get to every single question because it's a relatively short amount of time. So another good reason to call, set up that tour, set up that meeting with Mr. DeLaura. But let's get to a couple more of these questions in the chat here before we wrap up. So the next question looks like it's about a Becca. So why are we using a Becca as opposed to a different program here at St. Thomas?
So Becca is a very well-developed program with a rigorous, challenging, rich content. And yet at the same time, it's designed well to interact with the child in a way that makes that content accessible. It doesn't dumb down the content, and yet at the same time, it makes it easy from kinder, first, and second, which is where we're using a Becca in our phonics program. Then in 3rd grade, we use Classical Academic Press well-ordered language for grammar. So a Becca is used for our phonics, K1-2, and then we move to Classical Academic Press well-ordered language for grammar from 3rd grade to 8th.
Great, thank you. Next question, you mentioned kindergarten was full this year. I would have a 1st grader next year. Does that mean, assuming all the current kindergartners return, that there wouldn't be a spot for him?
So beginning in 1st grade, our class size max we shoot for is 18. So if all 16, we do limit kindergarten to 16, but 1st and beyond 18. So we could accept in principle 2 more students if all 16 return. And by the way, so if there were, say all 16 did return, in regard to 1st grade, we would order 1st grade applications in the order we receive them. And so beginning this week, so we would keep, Mrs. Steffi will keep a waiting list, so to speak. And were all 16 to return, we would take the first 2, the 1st and the 2nd received, to go into that 1st grade.
Any other questions, either in the chat or just out loud, before we wrap up today? thank you all so much for joining us.